Hello, hello, and welcome to another edition of Grown Folks Business on a Thursday evening. That is kind of stormy, but it's actually a really good temperature. I could sit outside right now. Want to just welcome some wonderful people to the space as always. I got the right people for this question. I know I do. Lisa, thanks for sliding in the home plate. Jay, what's going on? Bob, Greg, and Julia. Danya, as always, appreciate what you do on the Wheels of Steel. And Danya, feel free to participate tonight because I think you do some awesome things with what we consider art. So chime in if you want to, or I'll just ask you the question at the beginning at least. Um, because tonight is about that thing called art. And art is not one specific thing. Hey, Mary Carmen, good to see that you're joining us. Um, art is not just one specific thing. It's not just paint on a canvas. We all should know that. So tonight's question is, what is your art, and why is it your art? So what is your art and why? I can begin if it centers the conversation and gives you a little bit more clarity. I think it should be clear enough because that art thing should be indicative of something that's outside of yourself, and it's affirming. It's creative. It gives a disposition that's kind of desirable, and you know that it's something to it. We did a show, gosh, out of these over 100 shows now, 150 some shows. Yeah, I still just blows my mind that we've done this many shows. Um, I think Greg and Julia were definitely here. I feel like you were here, Bob. Lisa, I'm not sure. Yes, you were. Yes, you were, because we talked about music and you mentioned country music. It was a show where we talked about what music did for you or what music was your preference, and I think I tried to get everybody to give a song and blah blah blah. But in that realm, what's your art? What's the thing that kind of speaks to you and gets you through? Like I said, I'll begin. Literature is one of my favorite arts. It is something that gives me a bit of escapism. Um, it feels a need or a void to travel internally uh, without going somewhere physically. It provides and spurs imagination. Um, I was huge, um, a huge. I'm sorry, I'm being distracted. Somebody wants to join, I believe, so I need to get them the link. I think, but I was a huge comic book fan. I really, really was into comic books, and you're watching visually the communication of the words that are written by the person who is telling this fantastical tale, but you're also getting to watch visual, real good artists renditions of what's taking place. Um, I guess that's kind of where my fascination with the art of literature comes from, because I consider all of that, comic books, whatever. It's some form of literature. There's some wonderful uh, dialogue exchanges, some wonderful descriptive phrases, and what have you. So again, critically important. Your art is whatever you say it is to me. Whatever gets you somewhere, takes you somewhere, does something for you. The why of my art being literature. I love words. I love stories. Um, I love knowing that somebody on this planet could sit in front of a typewriter or a keyboard or with a pen and a paper and extract something so beautiful out of their minds and give it to the world for us to be uh, not just entertained by, but enlightened and enriched by. Uh, Richard Wright's one of my favorite authors. Uh, Robert Beck, Donald Goins, Walter Mosley. Uh, there's the list goes on and it's very long. Um, yeah, so that's the question. What's your art and why? Uh, I'm gonna do a randomized pitching point so we don't get that. Lisa, yeah, it's on you first. Give us your art and why.
Now, if I drop off, yes, the storm is awful. That's one of my holdups. So, um, go ahead and get that in. You called it, Tim, from the beginning. Music. Music is just an amazing thing to me. And akin to what you're saying, it just amazes me that I could hit some keys, one of those 88 keys or 5 of the 88 keys on a piano or keyboard, and I can't compose something that can transition somebody. It might can run somebody out of a room, but thinking about that's just amazing to me. And then it changes everything about me. The music that I play, or if I get engaged in something, I will take music to change how I'm feeling. So, not just feeling down. If I'm feeling like turned up about something, I may want to get more turned up, right? Want to get more turned up, and depending on what vein it is that I want to do. So the best example I can give you. So if someone has challenged me and my abilities, oh, I've gone straight to like some rap stuff to say, oh, no, they didn't. Like, I don't have to say anything to them. Like, I will literally turn on some DMX in a minute, right? And it just fuels that fire in me that, oh, they just don't know that they've made me go like way further than they could have imagined I couldn't go. So I just love that thing with music.
Marvin Gaye is my go-to, and as you stated, it doesn't matter at times whether it's good, bad, in different mood. Um, and it's truly the artistry of the rhythm, the cadence, the things that you know are coming in that genre. For me, in the Marvin Gaye song, you know what's coming. You know you're gonna hear this wonderful vocal uh, elevation and middle and low, even though you know it's coming, and you still get the same kind of sensation because that is art. I mean, it's as you stated, I couldn't sit at the piano and do anything but uh, ping ping, but I can appreciate it. I can truly appreciate it. So, of course, I knew you were gonna go with music, but yeah, that works, and that's a great one to go with. Greg and Julia, what you guys got? What's your art and why?
Okay, sorry for the delay. Couldn't find the button. So Julia's pointing to me, so I will go first because I am an obedient husband, and there is an art in that. Yay, Lisa, you know it. Yeah. So I love the phrase "take me to church," and that idea of "take me to church" means that we've been raised, we've been elevated, our eyes are a little more skyward, and our vibration is raising, it's increasing. We're feeling harmony, we're finding harmony. And that's what art is for me. And so, my art, the art of living, the art of finding harmony. Um, and recently, I've been reading some books on healing, and I love the idea of art of healing. And I've got a quote I'd like to read if I could, right quick. It's from I'm not sure who wrote it, but maybe the writer of this book. Healing is seeing. Healers are visionaries, willing and determined to see unity and peace. Can I say that one more time? Healing is seeing. Healers are visionaries, willing and determined to see unity and peace.
There's something substantial in that. Um, I think it's just an appreciation of the naturalness of art. Also, it's a natural tendency for so many of us. I mean, I was walking the other day and I heard some water. I was like a little stream or brook or something, and I just thought that had to be one of the first sounds that were heard by whenever a consciousness entered man. And there's a rhythm to it, and there's an art to that too. That's what that quote sounds like to me. Just the naturalness of art.
Well, that idea that the author mentions about seeing and being visionaries. When I got into art about 8 years ago, started taking art classes. I do some painting. One of the most exciting things that occurred first was learning how to see like an artist. And that really changes the perspective. I would be walking with a group of artists and they would be talking about the colors they see in a gravel road. They said, look at those pinks, look at those purples. And I said, what? But at some point, when we train ourselves to see like an artist, we begin to see subtlety.
So you made a perfect segue, but I want to hear from Julia first. But Bob, you got to go next, man, because you have an eye similar to what Greg just described. But Julia, what's your art and why?
Great. I love what Lisa said about music. I have the same sense. Gregory appreciates quiet and he thinks better and the art of being quiet and still. That's something I'm learning. But I have always had music going all the time, from Nina Simone to Marvin Gaye. And Bob was in that talk because I was shocked that Pink Floyd was one of his people that he really liked. I never saw Bob as a Pink Floyd person, and he's great. I thought a lot about this when I saw it, and I guess the art of conversation for me, meeting people when I was in sales and marketing, it was, trying to find rapport for a purpose of selling. But later, even when I got into catering weddings and so forth, it became a lot deeper, like what's important, what are your values? So the art of conversation, finding out what makes people tick, what's their entry points, what brings out the best in them, not just chit chat, but what and hearing people's stories. It's kind of like you with the books. I love people's stories and hearing about them, and that, I guess that's it.
No, beautiful, because we're making art. That's what we're doing right here, right now. I totally agree. I would have gotten there too. Literature is great, music's awesome, but you're right. There's something to the ebb and flow of interaction and getting to know someone, especially when it's without pretense. So I think that's what we get here. Go ahead.
And I was just going to say, I thought your art was going to be the art of synthesizing. You are such a good facilitator and so good with pulling people together and thoughts together and building on thoughts. So that's an art for you.
My head is still fitting in the screen, Julia. I appreciate that. I thank you for that. I accept that. A wonderful compliment. I appreciate you. Bob, I'm coming to you, but I want to make sure I recognize Jared, and I appreciate you joining us, man. It's been too long. We had a wonderful show with you, gosh, maybe 2-3 months ago, but it was good, and it's good to see you now, man. So yeah, your mom was in trainings or something. That was when you were in that training stuff, Lisa. So yeah, good to see you, Jared. Bob, what's your art and why?
I want to echo the welcome for Jared to be here. Great to see you, and glad for you to join us this evening. I appreciate you joining us too, by the way. Art is art is for me so much, and listening to Lisa talk about music. I love music. I love all sorts of music, and listening to her talk about how music can dial you up, dial you down, change your mood, energize you. If you need to be pumped up, listen to this. If you need to be calmed down, listen to that. And I can listen to music. I can just listen to music of all sorts all the time, and the impact on my mood is just kind of remarkable. The difference in music to me and visual art, paintings, sculpture, and ceramics and whatnot, is that I can see signatures easier in the visual arts than I can in music. And music is music. Music for me, I can recognize if I know it, but I can't see patterns and I can't see signatures in music like I can see in visual arts. And so visual arts mean a whole lot to me for a lot of reasons. And one is that I have patience with them. You know, I love plays. I love events that represent art, but I have an impatience problem, and so but with visual arts, I can engage with them at my own pace, and so I can look and I can see patterns and I can understand what the artist is trying to do. I also have found that getting to know the artist and understanding the process of the making of the art and understand what the artist is trying to do and is working to do, what matters to the artist as she or he is actually making the art makes a huge difference in my appreciation for that. Architecture also is something that I've always been just so engaged by, and that includes structure and technique, as well as visual, as well as representation, and all of that sort of thing. I think art for me is a few things. One, it is an expression of who we are, an expression of how we live, an expression of what matters to us. It also is a way that we engage the environment and that we engage others around us. And I quite frankly can't very well understand people that don't have a sense of art in their lives, whatever that art might be, because it seems kind of boring and kind of dead, quite frankly. And so, you know, it's like, okay, what are we here for? What are we here for? And of course, literature too. I mean, literature and patience, that's a problem for me. Though my undergraduate college degree is in literature, because I love to read. I just don't have the patience for it. And I love to know what other people are thinking, why they're thinking those things. You mentioned Richard Wright. Richard Wright is one of the most transformative authors I've ever read. And I don't know how we go through life without that kind of engagement, that kind of interaction, that kind of broadening, and so forth and so forth.
Well said. Yeah, the thing about, you know, someone that doesn't have an art to appreciate, that's why I say it is literally outside of oneself. You have to be willing to engage with something or allow for something to get in. I think to experience art, you have to be welcoming of something that's outside of yourself. Vanessa, glad you could join. I hope you're able to talk tonight. I'm going to go to Jay, then I'm coming to Jared, and then I'm going to come to you, Vanessa. And if you, hopefully you're there and able to speak. Glad you could join us. Jay, what's your art and why?
It sounds like we all about the same, because mine is definitely creative and performing arts. And like you, it started very similar with the word for two reasons. I used to be in a special ed class, and they thought that I had a reading disability, but they found out that it was comprehension. And I had a lovely teacher, Miss Akpusani, who took me from a 5th grade reading level in 7th grade to a 9th grade reading level in 1 year. And so the way that I process words and all of that had really changed. And so then I started getting into spoken word. Then I started getting into chorus. Then I started getting into the theater. So like I feel like my life, low key, nobody knows this, but I'm telling y'all, I low key feel like my life is a musical. Like, I feel like it's fame. Like, I'm like the black male version of Alec McBeal, because it's gonna be some songs going on in my head. Y'all will be surprised. And so, just like Lisa said, like, my go-to song anytime somebody tick me off is by Big Sean. I ain't gonna tell you the title, but it play in my mind quickly. But I also love my musicals. Like, I am a diehard musical, from The Sound of Music all the way up to Little Shop of Horror. Look, I love it all. So anything musically, anything creative, and then I do graphic art too. So anything that deals with any type of visual, performing arts, and stimulating the senses, it draws me.
I dig that, man. I really do. Musicals not much my thing. I'm into the movie, and then somebody just bust out in the song. Then I gotta wait 4 to 6 minutes before they get back to the plot. And sometimes they try to put the plot in the song, and it just doesn't work for me. Just Grease. I think Grease and West Side Story I kind of deal with a little
Now,
bit.
Grease 1, now Grease 2, we gonna have to just throw that out.
Grease 2 that I actually
Only thing about that is Michelle Pfeiffer.
Exactly. I think that's why I like that one. Exactly. You're absolutely right. Good catch. I think that's why I like that one. Jared, are you still there? There you go. All right, man. Tell us your art and why it's your art.
Okay, yeah. Well, my mother's on camera. She raised me. I'm just like her. Even though sometimes she might not like to hear it. But we're definitely one and the same. So music, I was raised with it. It was always playing every second of my life. Um, so I really am into rhythm and motion and tone and the kind of texture of a moment. Um, so that's one way I for real can express myself in any given moment. And I will say it saved me at one point. COVID happened. I had like no interaction with anyone outside of two friends. And so I forgot how to talk. And just that checking out at a cashier's register at like Harris Teeter would stop me. I'd have a mini panic attack. So in those moments, I realized I had lost that sort of confidence and expression. So I did karaoke and I learned how to sing, and it brought something out of me. So music for real is one. It's one of the arts that I like to use to express myself. But I'm a lot with Jay in that how I feel sort of like a musical. It feels like every moment is a special kind of expression. Um, and I don't know, maybe it was Oscar Wilde or someone from that time, but they said that the greatest artwork that I'll ever create is myself. So I really do like music, and I really do like the visual arts, and I'll work on something for days, whether it's a song or a painting or a miniature story just for myself. And that's, gosh, you asked for one, but it's all of them. It's how I feel. Yeah.
No, man, awesome answer. And you had me thinking about Gordon Parks, because Gordon Parks is he's a Renaissance man, and I firmly believe that his blackness limited some of the celebration of him that we should have in America. He was an awesome talent. He was a photographer, an actual visual artist, a movie director, a book writer. Um, and I agree, Jared. And there's more than just one piece to the puzzle. That's I could go on as well, man. So yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. Vanessa, are you there and able to unmute and talk to us? All right, great.
Hey, Felton, I'm
Hey, how you
here.
doing? Good. Glad to hear
I'm
your voice.
well.
All right, and I'm
I look
sorry I
happy.
didn't send it out to you. I really am, but hey, you
No
made it.
problem.
I
No
appreciate you checking
problem.
in. Vanessa, if you can catch the wave of the crowd and the way this conversation is going, the question is, what's your art and why? And it's
Ooh,
not relegated to paint on canvas or anything like that. It's
okay.
what's your art, whatever it is. Music could be anything, wherever you
All
go
right.
with it.
Well, hopefully this is not too much off the beaten path. I've had a chance to certainly hear and enjoy some of the answers thus far. But if I had to choose an art for me, and since I'm not very musically inclined, and I noticed that a lot of people have that talent and that gift, but unfortunately I'm not one of them. Um, but if I had to say what is my art, I would say that it is probably um, creative writing and expression. And not, I say that because unlike a lot of writers that I know, for me, writing is not necessarily um, something that I think of in the academic sense. Every high or low in my life has been documented in some way, form, or fashion through writing. With the birth of each of my children, and I have three of them, I would write, you can call it a poem or a short story or what have you, because for me, that was a way that I could capture the essence of that time, that moment, that thing that sometimes years later, seems so fleeting. And it's interesting. Years later, I go back and I read some of that stuff that I've written, and I've took those things away in baby books and these types of things, and prayerfully one day my children will read them, appreciate them, but more than that, they will understand it, because it is me and I am their mother or their parent. And so, I find that I do that, not just in my personal life, but that it has been that tool for me throughout my professional life, because um, again, it's a tool that allows me to not only express myself, but to get through the highs and the lows, and um, to find momentum and movement at a time, sometimes where I feel paralyzed, or feel like I can't deal or operate in another way. To give an example, years ago, I worked for Child Services in Guilford County. And as a child welfare person, I was a supervisor. Um, there are lots of things that are heavy that you deal with. There are things that are so god awful, and you wonder, what type of world do we live in where these things happen to children and to young people. And there were times that I found myself strangely drawn to things that were happening with some of the children. And I would find myself documenting those things. And from the documentation, or from the creative writing, where I would, kind of get off into my own head, I would do other things. For example, I wrote a short story. Now, again, this has nothing, absolutely nothing to do with my responsibilities as a child welfare supervisor. But I wrote a short story about a young woman or a young girl who was in foster care, who was having some challenges. And oddly enough, those challenges were around who she was and her identity as a young Black female living in a home that was not where she had Black foster parents. And the short story, was a loving story, but it was a tragic story, because each participant, the parent and the child, lost each other, because that gap could not be bridged. And when I say that I created this short story, ultimately the short story got turned into a play, and a play got turned into a mechanism by which we use that to then train foster parents who were adopting or fostering young Black youth, to train them around issues of hair. Because if you grow up Black in America, hair is who you are, it is part of your identity. And I felt like we were losing an opportunity to give people the tools that they needed to be true parents of African American children. I was never an advocate of a child staying or maintaining in care just because we could not, quote, find a Black foster home. Any loving, wonderful home would have been that home. However, I felt like we were missing something when we were not providing people with the tools that they needed. And so through that writing, through that creative expression, it then moved to again a play that the foster youth acted out, and then we use that as a springboard to train foster parents in the county. And so again, my writing or my creative expression is not relegated to one thing or the other. It is that thing which moves me. It is that thing which saves me. It is that thing which comforts me when unfortunately sometimes when I'm challenged with the ways of the world. And so um, I do write for myself. I tell myself one of these days before I leave the planet, hopefully I'll get a chance to get it all down and get it perhaps published. But the kind of the story of my life, and it's called Crisis, Pain, and Restoration, CPR, the story of one Black woman. So again, probably giving you way too much information, but
No.
that's what you get when you ask these questions.
No,
Felton.
that's what we're here for. And you said something I thought. So what always happens is we jump ahead and around in the answers. And Vanessa, we do just police your mute button just so we don't get echo and stuff. But what we do in this space is just have a conversation, and we see where it goes. And I often don't get through all of the questions, but sometimes, as what's happening right now, you guys beat me to the punch, and you start talking about one I'm going to get to. So I have to go back to Jay because he did it, and then I'm coming back to you, Vanessa, because you did it also. But keep conscious of the time and the weather, everybody, because I don't want us to lose track of this, because this is a great conversation. And I don't want to make it a two-part if I don't have to, because the weather it's sounding crazy outside over here. But the next question is, where has your art taken you? And Jay, you started answering that question so well based on your experience of making that serious leap in your learning abilities or your reading abilities or comprehension abilities, or whichever one you want to choose. But it took you somewhere, and it's still taking you somewhere, because you were doing shows and performances and all that good stuff. So where has your art taken you is the question. And Jay, if you want to go a little bit further with talking about that, that's fine. But you kind of already answered. That's why I said I got to start with you. And Vanessa, I'm coming back to you because you did the same thing. Where has your art taken you? Go ahead, Jay.
Art literally saved my life. I'm not even going to lie, because it not only introduced life to me, but a person who also deals with clinical depression like myself, if it wasn't for art, I wouldn't be standing here. So like when we talk about music, it's amazing how a song can change your whole mood, and not even getting deeply spiritual. But now you could see how David performed the first exorcist with Paul, well, with Saul, Saul, I'm sorry, with Saul, just by music. And so music changes your mood, and music bring you out of things. But the ability to express oneself probably is like a healing agent and a balm in the toughest of situations, because it's one thing to be frustrated, it's one thing to be angry, but when you lack the ability to express yourself, it's a slow, painful death. And I just thank art for giving me that medium to always be able to extract a portion of me, if not all of me.
Yeah. The outlet is again, is if you're not someone that can appreciate the artistry of the world, then you're missing out. You're missing something, and you should contribute to it in any which way you can. So, yes, just the world's the canvas. Vanessa, give me the places that your art has taken you.
Well, I think that my art has taken me to how shall I say this, to opportunities that I don't think that I would have had it not been for my ability to kind of be a creative outlet. I am active, and certainly was more so prior to the pandemic, with my church. And we used to do this thing called Table Talk Thursdays with the women of Temple Memorial Baptist Church. And it is there that I had an also an opportunity to work with the women of my church and with my community. Again, it has taken me to and through a collaboration during the time that I described with the county. This collaboration was with UNCG and a couple of professors there that helped me to kind of, again, make the switch from this short story to, something that could be used as a training platform, because again, that was not my intent. It was just something that I had shared with someone near and dear to me, because it was something that was just eating away at me, because I felt like there was a need that we were not meeting for those young people. But it's also just taken me to a place of happiness when I can express myself in ways that it doesn't matter if no one else understands it, but if it does what I need it to do, then it's an accomplishment. It's something that I take pride in. And again, outside of myself, the only other people probably that I'm concerned about is that perhaps one day my children will understand and appreciate that. And so again, just a place of happiness.
Yeah, great, great. Peace and happiness. Yeah, it's a beautiful place, especially when you can access it without spending a lot of money or making some sacrifices you might regret. You just pick up a pencil and a notepad and kind of make it work out. Lisa, where's your art taking you?
Oh man. Um, I love the whole subject and what everybody had to say. For me, my love of music has brought me so much comfort and so many opportunities to escape the various situations that I was in when I didn't have control over my environment. Um, so, like you, I do love words too. Books were one of my first opportunities to know that this is not the only thing, but I couldn't take them along when I walked a neighborhood or walked to a friend's house or things like that. So it actually the books were a bridge to music for me, and then as I learned once I started parenting the benefits of exposure to music, I absolutely, as my son so candidly expressed, I tried to play music all of the time so my children would be enhanced in their lives. So no matter what I came from, my background and things like that. I wanted their cognitive development to be enhanced. And I read that music made these little connections in their brains. And I am so thankful. I mean, I'm just so thankful that I got that exposure and that they got that experience, because I do believe I do have five little geniuses, great geniuses, and they all um, have a very fond appreciation for music. Um, and some of them got the benefit of piano lessons and things like that. And I do note and notice that they go to play keyboards or pianos, even though they're not like Chopin or things like that, when I know that they're dealing with things. So it has taken me and my family to opportunities outside of the traditional opportunities that in our African American culture we may subscribe to. So I'm thankful for that.
Yeah, great. I mean, recognizing again how simplistic it is in terms of it's not going out and trying to find some nice piece of jewelry or some expensive thing that validate is playing a record or putting a good CD on. It's easy to find something substantive that doesn't have to cost you some peace of mind. I love that it's picking up a pad, it's writing, it's playing a song, it's introducing your children to music because you know how critical it was for you. So that's great. Jaredon, you got the segue. She brought you up, so I'm coming to you next.
Okay, yeah. She's right. She's absolutely right. Music and connections. I actually pulled up a couple of PubMed articles, a couple of journals on it because my mind was like racing as I heard all your stories. And I was remembering these articles I read when I was in school for biology about how art activates the brain. Maybe you guys heard that statistic that like we are only using 10% of the brain at any given moment. It's not right, but it's got like a solid base, in fact. And the fact is that only a few of our neurons are activating at a certain time. And each time we think something, it's a pop in our brain that sends out these little ripples. And then those ripples find a path. And then they pick that path, and that one sends out another pop to its connections. And so it kind of cascades that way, our thought patterns. And so we go from what's for dinner, kind of craving pizza, Papa John's, and so on. I felt it, and I'm sure you guys have felt it at some time when you experienced art, when you experienced a good plate or lovely music or a piece of art. It's rapturous. It really does suck you in, and it draws your attention. And then you kind of expand your consciousness in a way, and that's in the literal sense. When we take MRI scans of a brain experiencing music or good food or a painting, the brain is so much more active, 10, 20, 50% I've read. And those connections are evolving. And you do get antidepressants, like with the release of the growth stimulating hormones in the brain, which we've seen to have an antidepressant effect. And so that's what's happening. Those connections are forming. They're getting stronger. They're expanding. They're developing. And it's a beautiful thing that we share as a human race. And that's just the scientific perspective.
Yeah, wonderful observation. I love that you took this to a scientific place. I think you did that last time you were on the show. I was going to say endorphins. That's all I was going to unmute for it. I don't know is that the right word? That's the one we're looking for.
That's one of them, endogenous morphines,
Okay.
which isn't opiate. Basically, it's the ones we produce endogenously. But that's part of the signals and the hormones that are sent out, and it is a strong cascade. And there is evidence that it makes kids smarter. There is evidence that it makes people calmer. There is evidence that it gives people better imaginative problem-solving thinking. There is evidence that it increases focus. Basically, anything good you want, anything developmental you want in your head, you can get it from art and actually appreciating it.
I like it, and I'll be looking for some of those words I can't pronounce. I just know endorphins. So yeah, I like that stuff, man. If I can go buy it off the grocery store shelf, I would. Bob, I'm coming to you next. Where has your art taken you? Is the question, and yeah, let's. I like this energy. I like this room. This is art.
So much that so many people have said. You know, I love listening to Vanessa and Jay Dwayne talk about what their writing, what their art, what their work, has done for them. And, you know, I'm involved with an organization in Winston-Salem called Author in Action. Felton, you've met them. Julia, you know Lynn Rhodes. They use poetry, drama, playwriting, music, intentionally for helping at-risk or potentially at-risk youth as an alternative to prison sentences, as an alternative to juvenile detention. They are approved by the court as an alternative way to help these young people understand, and it's a way that they can take what's painful for them inside of themselves, make a picture of it, and put it outside of themselves. So they know it's not them. They know it's not them. They know it's something else. And then they can talk about it. And it's a friend of mine, Felton, you also know, Christina Soriano. She's a vice provost for the arts at Wake Forest. She's a dance professor. She's a Kennedy Fellow. She's also a neuroscience scientist. And her work involves understanding how dance and neuroscience work. And my mother was an example of that. My mother, an Alzheimer's patient, breaks her hip. She forgets how to walk. How does she remember how to walk? She remembers how to walk by virtue of dance. Dance reminds her that she can walk. For me, I'm not an artist, but I can write. I would argue that my ability to write well has been my principal business advantage, because I can write well and craft and present and do. And when I was in school, I was like, okay, I can take exams, fine. But what I want is, I really want the work that I write to be deemed good. What I want is for my writing to be good. I can't do what Vanessa does. I think people who write novels, who write short stories, who write articles like you do, Felton, creative writing, I think those people are brilliant, particularly when they're able to do it for some purpose. That eludes me, but I understand and I can write well. And for me, it is much more of a construction of something, more like building a building. It's like the engineer in me. I can use words and language to build something like I would build a building or a house. That's the architect. That's the engineer in me. But I think that however way you interpret or reinterpret the language of art and construction and building and expression and so forth, I think if we don't realize the power that brings to what we do in this world, we're completely missing it.
I totally agree, and I love that you observed the fact that the more technical aspects of your writing are valuable for taking you in your business ventures elsewhere. That's where it takes you. But it's the communication of an idea, right? It's understanding that you're communicating something that started here or here, and you desire it to be understood as you are trying to make it presented to the other person for it to be understood. I think there is art in that, significant art. Greg, Julia, you guys tell us where your art's taking you.
Wow. Well, I'm just blown away by what everybody has said, and particularly the fact that they've used the art for the benefit of someone else. Like in Lisa's case, it's helped her family. In Vanessa's case, that foster story is amazing. And it might have started out something that you needed to express creatively, but the ripple effects of that, that's a story in itself. And Jay Dwayne, with his creativity and all that he is doing, that reaches so many people. And Bob, even though you used a lot of it in business, when you wrote Charlotte or my mother a note, I mean, it is so heartfelt, and it's an art, the way you communicate and the effect it has on other people. For me, the art of being with people and the art of conversation is about following the string. and where does it take us? And just a short example, we've kind of gotten involved with Sheldon and collecting bicycles for people, for refugees and for young people, mentoring to learn how to fix bicycles, and homeless people that need bicycles. So we've started collecting bicycles in Davie County, and we just don't go pick up the bicycles. We are meeting some incredible people. And on Monday, we picked up a bicycle at a place. Lady's an emergency room nurse. She's outgrown, but her family's outgrown 5 bicycles. But she is recognized that all the burnout in the healthcare industry. And so she's developing a nature sanctuary. They've got 2 little miniature donkeys, and she's just created a space. Anyway, the point is that when we find something we love and we follow it, it leads to, it expands, like the young man said, and he's gone. Jaredon. You know, it expands our consciousness. Art and being outside ourselves expands us.
Go ahead, Greg. I just wanted to say I love the string analogy. Follow the string. I like that. Go ahead, Greg.
I don't think there's anything I can add to this conversation. It's been beautiful.
I sometimes I feel the same way, man. And we're getting up against time, but I can go back around the space, and I have one last little question, because again, you guys have already begun answering it. And Julia, you just gave it total breath, and I'm like, yeah, I couldn't wait to say. Vanessa kind of already did it, and Bob kind of already did it, and then you already called it out. So before I get there, I want to really thank you all for being who you are and sharing this time with me. This is art. This is really art. And you guys, Greg and Julia, you're always looking for something to get into that's considerate of the community. That's art. There's art in that. So my final question was going to be, what does your art do for others? But as you talked about Lisa, and you talked about Vanessa, yeah. First thing I'm like, yeah, Lisa's always saying her art and what it's done for her family. And Vanessa's already saying what her art was able to do for some kids in the foster care system. So real quick, because we're almost out of time, reiterate what you already said, or expand a little, or introduce that question into your mind and give us a new answer. And there's only a couple people that didn't have that comment already. But Bob, I'll start with you. What does your art do for others?
I think that the thing for me is that I buy art, and I only buy art from people who need their art to be bought. I can't make it. I can appreciate it. I can engage, and I can understand, and I can put my arm around the person that made it. The visual artist really want to make art, but they've got to have an audience. They've got to be able to. They've got to have people that will give them. So I don't buy art of famous people or I buy art of people who are good at what they do and who deserve to be elevated. And that's
your art, of your appreciation of art, which is an art in itself. I've seen it and witnessed it. So that's an art in itself, but that encourages you to support up and comers and elevate those that
yeah, it's all about elevating and giving visibility and giving opportunity to the people that do it, that are really good, that need people to support them.
Absolutely. Greg and Julia, the question is, what does it do for others? I know you guys do so much, but just, in a nutshell, what does your art do for others?
Hopefully it serves them and uplifts them. But to what Bob said about art, his and what you and Felton and Bob shared about, just going to Miami and sharing the art pictures, it uplifts and inspires. This meeting, the squares, is uplifting and inspiring, and we thank you for that. That's an art, Felton. Thank you.
Yeah, that was gonna be mine. Yeah, this is it, and I see in real time in much of my interactions, Julia. If this is my art, then I'm so grateful that it's received as intended in the high 90% amount of times, because I still got some people that don't want me to be misunderstood. Lisa, I see you over there laughing. So, Vanessa, real quick, if you could tell us what has it done for others? I know you mentioned some wonderful things. If you want to add on to that, please do. If not, I understand. But just what has it done for others? What does your art do for others?
Well, I would hope that what my art does for others is that it reminds them that they are loved and that they are valued. And long after the person is no longer there or the conversation is no longer being had, I would hope that my contribution through art, through something that I've written or whatnot, that it gives life and it goes on. In other words, it just doesn't stop with the words that a person might say, but if it's a training, if it's a poem, if it's whatever, that it provides, a continuation. It's an extension of me.
Beautiful. I totally agree. I think our art should always outlive us. I think it should continue on, and whether we're here in physical or spiritual, hopefully we get to see a glimpse of the contribution. Lisa, what you got?
For me, what I've noticed since you asked that question is that my love of that particular art of music. I've always asked God to let me be a singer. I'm a choir singer, so I do have a level of talent as a choir singer. But I'm in some spaces. And I don't mind being authentically me. So I recently engaged this white lady who is from Texas, and she has the drawl and everything. And because of my extensive love of music, I asked her, I said, look, I would love to go to a country karaoke bar, but I'm a Black woman and I'm kind of scared. Will you go with me? That to me and I just saw this light in her eyes, like, oh yeah, I love it. I'm like, I don't want to be presumptuous or anything, but you're from Texas and you're a white lady. Will you go with me? I just, with me being able to be me, that level of being able to engage different people because of my extreme love for most music, then I don't mind reaching out and saying, hey, and it's me. I'm not trying to be fake or anything about it, but it is what it is. And I'm embracing that part. So it's helping build some bridges and create some comfortability within our different places and spaces and the acceptance of that.
So yeah, it makes others comfortable. That some of your art comforts others to the point that y'all can go hang out together and put on some cowboy boots and do some mud kicking and stomping and stuff. I dig it. I like it.
Listen, don't misconstrue what I'm saying. I wanted to go sing karaoke because I'm in with Luke Combs and Lee Bryce. So
I know. I know. I think I got that right. And I've seen you in your cowgirl outfit. You be getting it in. Jay, take us out of here, man. You're back, clean up. Just
I'm the cleanup man.
Yeah, you clean up, man. I knew you want to sing that song, don't you? What does your art do for others, bro? What does your art do for others?
Man, this is like a great setup to talk about Love is a Parable, because essentially that's what it was. Everything that I couldn't do in higher education or in everything that I couldn't do in mental and behavioral health, I could do with Love is a Parable, and that was infuse the creative and performing arts in ways to show that we are more alike than different. And it, you know, played the platform for me to write my books, to design the curriculum, to do the trainings, to do the workshops, to kind of echo what Vanessa was saying, to show the value, to show that people are valued and loved, and show the different ways in which love can be infused throughout humanity. So art literally is everything that I do. And like Lisa, like, if I want to captivate an audience, I can sing, I can do some poetry, you know, I can do a dramatization, I can do all of that, because those are the gifts that the Heavenly Father gave me, but it was used as a tool to connect us all, and also to teach a lesson, but also to bring us together. And so that's how I use that each and every day.
Awesome. Well said, everyone. I asked where your art's taking you. My art brings me here, and I'm so glad to share it with whoever's out there listening, because I have some really, really wonderful co-artists in this space. I mean, we are. I think the Temptations had about 20 members at some point. They rotate them in and out, you know, but they still maintain a nice melody. So I thank you guys for rocking with me, riding with me, and just sharing the time. And we beat the storm because we're logging off now. And if the power goes out, I know how to sit quietly and wait for it to come back on. So, hey, y'all have a wonderful night. Thank you all for joining. Man, Jared, and thanks for dropping in. Vanessa, thank you for
you
showing in.
guys.
Yeah, glad to have you tonight, Vanessa. Come back and I will make sure I send you the link. I apologize. I'm glad you reached out. I'm so glad.
No problem. Thank you guys. Good night.
All right, y'all have